So I'm very happy to say that I'm here with Mark Lawson from MDCI Project Managers. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
We worked on a couple of deals
Yes.
in the recent past. So this is how I got to know you and how I got to understand a bit about what you do. But the audience doesn't. So please tell us a little bit about yourself and your history.
Okay, Mark. Well, it's a pleasure to be here with you today. I'm a chartered project management surveyor under the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, which is one of the oldest property professional organisations in the world. Dates, in London from 1870 odd, a long time. And basically, my family decided to move to Spain back in 1965, to quite a distinct country in those days, to build their own hotel. So I've been involved in the property development business for a long time. I hate to think how many years that is, but it's a long time. Over the years, I became involved in project management because that's my passion and my profession. And I now run my own company. This year we're celebrating 25 years of operation as an independent company here in Marbella, MDCI. And we have, to our record of success, over 115 projects and many, many thousands of units delivered on time and on budget and according to the quality specified. So we offer quite a unique service. And that has been developed, as I say, over a number of years, working for international companies and individual people wanting to develop their own villas or homes alike.
No, I've been doing some research, but you've worked for some pretty impressive companies when you first arrived in Spain. Are you able to mention any of those? Or?
Sure. I worked for a British construction company that was number 10 in the UK industry back in the day. They did the World Trade Center in Dubai and many, many projects in the UK as well. His name was Sunley. John Sunley, the chairman, who sadly is not with us anymore, was a good mentor and a great boss and friend of mine until his passing in 2011. I worked for an American company called Global, developed 2 holiday resorts, one here in the Costa del Sol and one in Tenerife. This was back in the 90s. And then that culminated in quite a big assignment with Marriott themselves, whereby I developed 3 resorts for them, one in Paris, one in Mallorca, and another one here in Marbella, the Marriott Marbella Beach Resort. Mr. Marriott came over personally and thanked me for delivering his project on time and on budget, so that's something that I remember with great fondness. And that describes a lot about what we do for our clients. We fight to the death to make sure that their projects are run in a proper, transparent and organised fashion so that we build them on time, on budget and according to the quality.
Is it safe to say that you know how to lay a brick in Spain?
It is, but I think the importance here is to know what type of brick and with what type of cement you should be laying it, which often gets lost in translation and leads to all sorts of complications, which we don't want to go into too much. But the fact of the matter is, where a person chooses to invest in a project manager with certainly leadership and technical skills, such as we offer, then the least amount of mistakes you're going to be making, which at the end of the day cost you time and money, and that's the name of the game that we try and guarantee.
How should someone without experience of building in Spain, what would be the steps do you think they should?
Well, there are many steps. And we obviously, as project managers, have a process in place which requires the steps to be taken on firm ground. In many cases, we find people take or jump those steps without actually being on firm ground. So it does depend on what your interpretation of a nightmare really is. I mean, if you expect to be able to build something on time and on budget, according to the qualities that you've already decided on, you have to ensure that you put forward or put in place a process that guarantees those objectives. Not only do you have to put it in place, but you have to actually manage the process to make sure it's always on track. Now, that's not something you can do from the beach and on the Chiringuito having a few cañas every day, although a lot of people do think that it is quite easy. As long as I hear stories of people deciding to sort of pop in now and again and have a quick look, but they avoid maybe seeing whether they have a proper planning in place and whether that planning has identified how many resources have to be on site and what the deliverables are going to be that month to be able to assure yourself that you're actually on track or off track. If you don't control those key indicators, just to give a few examples, then of course your project can go off track, and then you can't be surprised at the end of it when the project is not delivered on time or you have endless disputes on the quality. So, it's back to how organized and how knowledgeable and how you organize the implementation of your program and the monitoring of it to be able to guarantee the results. And I have to say that without our help, or that knowledge, accumulated knowledge, being brought to the fore in that process, you're liable to more than likely come a cropper.
So a lot of the times we get brought in when the money's run out because
Yes.
of all the issues
Yes.
that they didn't have a proper plan in place.
Yeah.
And that's why I understand this hopefully this video is going to be extremely valuable for people, because
Yeah.
a lot of this extra cost and extra time and everything may have, from what I can see, can be avoided if you have someone like yourself
Correct.
guiding you throughout the whole thing.
Our record stands on its own 2 feet. We've never delivered a project late, never delivered over budget, and we've always guaranteed the quality. And we've never had any disputes in that. So I think that record is something to be proud of, firstly. But secondly, it's very, very unheard of in the market, because and we're aware of this because we're constantly called in for our project rescue service by clients who have either been told whatever, or assured whatever, or have signed documentation that guarantees and whatever, but yet it's not what they have paid for. And they call us in to try and resolve the issues, and in many cases we can resolve the issues, but in some cases we can't resolve them to their ultimate satisfaction because the whole process has been botched from the beginning. It's rather cruel, but unfortunately, if you don't take care of the methodology and don't take care of your own objectives and just pay out when you get the bills, at the end of the day you don't know what you paid for.
Which makes the whole idea of the project just a bit pointless.
Well, exactly, which means, as I say, they have to come to you to ask for more money because they spent 100% of the budget on only 70% of the project, to give you an example. Now, I don't know how you raise finance on the basis of that. It's very difficult, it must be, so it just goes to show how good you are. But all of that could have been avoided if they had the proper people heading up the leadership of the project and implementing the process and the controls. It's a bit like flying a plane. I mean, if you know how to fly a plane and you know what you're reading from your dashboard, those key indicators can be used to fly the plane at the right altitude and within the right time and land it safely and on the right time. But if you have no idea of flying, then of course you can't read what information you're getting from your instruments.
So you've actually got a service which is called the rescue plan.
Yes, that's right. We have rescue service and we have a strategic service which offers advice on what is the best way to develop a given project to meet the objectives of the client. And if you have a look at our website, mdci.es, we have a full range of different services ranging from project monitoring to full project management, which is obviously the management, the inherent management of the process, right to project development as well, which includes all the technical people you need to be on board to be able to execute the project. It's important to highlight also that it's not all dire problems that we have to resolve. It's that the people who use us can be assured that they're not going to have the headaches that most of the people have, because we will deal with the tile hole. We'll get the building license as fast as we can. We will get the best deals for them on construction bids, mostly 10% below what they could normally get themselves, because we have a process of bidding and of crushing the unitary prices right down to make sure they get the most competitive price. And also we will implement a process whereby those guarantees can be implemented to the end without having to spend an extra penny, an extra amount on the budget, or even having to have disputes over quality. So I mean, it's positive, everything is positive, but as long as you have the right person, the right people in your team managing the process forward.
So tell us then, if I wasn't wanting to build my own villa,
Yes.
I'm not going to give you any specific, but just in general, I have to plot. Now, I don't know how to approach the town hall for licenses. I don't know how to do a project. You'd be able to help me with that?
Correct. I mean, let's take a couple of steps back. I mean, once you've got your land, I think it's important to have the best range of ideas from independent architects that you can get. So that means a bit of a design competition. That's what we organise. It doesn't cost you anything, but I mean, we'll get 2 or 3 good architects that we know are solid in their reputations and get them to give us some schematics so that you can have a look at the overall distribution and an idea of what they are thinking of, and that helps you choose the right sort of architect for your project. A lot of people don't do that. Now, once that's chosen, we will negotiate the services contract with the architect, whereby we ensure that all the basics that are covered, because some architects are quite clever and they leave things out and then they charge you extra, for example, the stamp from their College of Architects. That should be included in the fees. So we make sure that everything is included and that it's offered at the best and most competitive price. And we will also ensure that certain key deliverables are inside the contract. So that's that out of the way. Once the architect has produced the basic project, you then go forward to get the license, and we would handle all that. So we're in the town halls of the Costa del Sol very regularly indeed, so we know who to go to and who to pester and who not to pester and how many times to be chasing these things up. So we certainly would be able to get an inside track on that. And then parallel to that process would actually be bidding out the works with the execution project. So the architect would have continued working, would produce the execution project. We would have audited that documentation because sometimes we find mistakes or contingencies tend to be put inside. And by that I mean that the architect may decide to have a bit of a liberal view on sort of the units of foundations or structure to protect himself. So he may have boosted it. And we want to get to the bottom of it and find out whether that's true or not, because it may or may not need that level of investment in foundations, for example. And why should the builder benefit from an extra amount if you don't go down that route with that level of foundations? So as you can see, we're thinking and acting and strategizing all the time. We then make sure that the bidding contest is attended to by a number of suitable contractors. We get them down to the last 2 under very tight financial conditions. We then present them with our frightening contract that we developed for Marriott themselves, and then the winner signs that contract. But what they can be assured of is that every month we will be checking the progress to the targets, which is the bill that they're supposed to be sending. And if they're not complying with the targets that we've agreed with them, they will be penalized. So they're penalized from the first moment that they're failing. Now that money doesn't go straight to the owner, it just sits there in escrow, and then if they catch up the time, they get given the money back. Should they not comply with the end result, then of course that money that's accumulated will be returned to the developer. Now, not many people do this. Some people always say, well, yes, I've got a penalty in place, but is basically based on the end date. But of course they haven't accumulated the money during the process. So therefore the conflicts arise, whereby obviously the builder won't allow you to take from his final account the money, even though you would like to. And in some cases we've heard of some builders not handing over the project to the developer, which harms everybody, because if the developer has already sold those units to his clients and depends on that money to be able to pay the builder, the whole thing gets into a bit of a mess.
So where do you get your clients from?
Well, most of our clients come from word of mouth because we have been in the market for a long time. We're not as noisy as we were when we were building those 800 units a year. But we do get referrals from people who speak very creditably about us, and we're grateful for that. We work very hard at our reputation. We're very transparent, above board, and very dynamic in what we do. We adapt to the client's needs specifically, and we always deliver on time and on budget. So, I mean, everybody you ask will tell you the same, that, We're not very pretty, but we're very, but we deliver on our commitments, which I think is important. I always have thought it was important.
So you get a lot of referrals from customers. Do you work with real estate agents? Yeah.
Well, the real estate agents know of us, so of course they know who they can depend on to help them cross that bridge when they have an investor sitting with them who maybe wants to buy a project that's already been commenced but is stopped at the moment. And that investor, before he buys the land and whatever plans and license that may go with the project, he wants to be able to evaluate how much is it going to cost me to complete, because he wants to make money on the deal as well. So we get, on occasion, requests from agents to say, can you help us try and determine a viable cost here? And of course, the fact that we have a recognized logo and we're chartered project management surveyors, so that carries a certain weight with them. So they ask us to intervene to sort of provide that sort of guarantee to their investors, so at least the investor can decide whether to proceed or not, and whether it matches any expectations. Having said that, we have seen a lot of cases whereby some agents do tend to make up the numbers to make the investment look very attractive, but do tend to, because they don't have the expertise, they sometimes they make mistakes and leave certain costly elements out of the development. And then that just leads again to conflicts and miscommunication, and we're happy to help them out and to provide that added value where needed.
So I would encourage every agent or any individual property investor or developer to work with a project manager like yourselves. Would that be, you would say so, but I mean, it's pretty obvious that they should do, shouldn't they?
Well, it's horses for courses. I mean, let's face it, we don't want to work for everybody, and some people don't need our service because they've got an internal setup. I mean, I know of several developers who we'd love to work with, but they have their own people and they think they're well attended to by their own people. As I say, it's chacun à son goût, as they say in French, everyone to his own. But we're happy to help anybody who needs our level of expertise, our level of track record, and our level of value-added process to whoever needs it. That's not a problem for us.
What's the market like at the moment?
The market at the moment is stable. So I think more stable than most of us would have thought possible, because there have been a number of boom years. And looks like it's going to be mature for the next number of years, because there are not enough units, there's not enough capacity for people to be able to continue to come and for them to be attended in their homes, so they're going to be investing to build their own. And that's a good thing, and that's where we come into play, and we make sure they don't get burnt in the process.
Okay, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much, Mark. It's been
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Great insight. Thank you.
Thank you.